Today on Core Conversations, we have Blossom Leilani Crawford. Blossom is an owner of Bridge Pilates Studio in Brooklyn, New York. She's a famed instructor with over 20 years in the business. We talked about being a mom, finding balance to travel the world, and we even joked about being able to teach our spouses Bloodies. The conversation overflowed with stories from her mentor and Elder Kathy Stanford Grant. Be real and be yourself was the life lesson today, as Blossom and Cathy taught us the value of being authentic in how we do Pilates and how we do life. Enjoy the conversation.
Blossom Leilani Crawford, and no Black Cat Pilates Hamburg. I don't speak Brazilian. I'm terrible. But I do speak a little German because my sister lives in Kiel. I'm from Hawaii, which I think is a big part of my life. And my main thing was that I was trained and sort of the protege of Cathy Stanford Grant, which was sort of my big Pilates. First of all, how about that? My first Pilates introduction. Amazing. Lucky me.
Yes, right.
And we had a thing. We had a thing for a long time, and now I have the pleasure of teaching kind of all over the world, which has been amazing.
Yes.
And now I teach in this little basement, which is what you're seeing in right now, which is also amazing because I have my family nearby. We're healthy, and so yeah, that's me. And I love my job. That's really the truth. I love what I do. I am blessed and lucky.
Yes. And I see in your posts, some people like to keep everything separate, like business and this is life. And you have pictures of like your kids crawling under the ladder barrel. And
yeah, well, because that's really who I am. I had a company approach me once. They're like, well, we'd like you to teach this thing, but only this. And I was like, yeah, it's not who I am. When I go to teach, it's like, here you go. Like, it's all of it. Like,
yes.
I'm not very good at editing myself. Like if I have to sort of hold back, you're not going to get the best of me. It's better if I just go, okay. If I have to hold back, then it's not good.
Right. Well, you're not being true to yourself, right?
Correct.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
How old are my kids?
Yeah.
Hold on. 12 and a half and almost 11. There you go.
You sure?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Do you want to ask a friend, or are you okay?
I know. Yeah, 12 and a half and almost 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. And
you have kids too, right?
I do. I have 4.
What?
Yes. So I have 2 by birth and 2 by blended family. So we're a table of 6.
I am adopted into a Jewish family, so I love the non-blood family as well.
Yes. Yeah. It's great. It is great. And I like putting that stuff out there. Like you see in my posts, I'll talk about my wife. I'll talk about my kids. People like just seeing the person, the man behind the brand, so to speak, the woman behind the brand. You connect with that, right?
I think that what's been sort of the amazing part for me in this virtual world in general, because the first time I had to do, literally the first time I had to film a Pilates video, I thought I had food poisoning. I didn't have food poisoning. I was just nervous.
Wow.
So nervous. Like the first day was just like retching. The day before, because I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. But
Yes.
what I found is that if I just be me, the people who are attracted to me find me and go, hey, I want to hire that person,
Yes.
or hey, I want to take classes with that person. That's been kind of amazing to me that I know it sounds so silly, but that who I am actually really comes across even virtually. Because if I really am who I am, people go, oh yeah, I like that. I'm going to go take another class with her.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
It's very cool. And I mean, I've seen even the people on here can testify to that, but I've seen posts, saying that very thing, that they just love the class with you, or there's a picture of you working with somebody. And as much as you have this fantastic lineage, you yourself are amazing.
Yeah, because once Cathy actually came to a class of mine, and she was very kind. She watched the class, and I tried to teach something that I wasn't ready for. And
Okay.
She said, oh, honey. And she just sort of pulled me aside, and she was like, Blossom, you can't be me. And I was like, that's a shame. Yeah. I really would like to.
Right.
But it was that first thing of be yourself.
Yes.
Don't be inauthentic. Be you, do you. be ready
Yes.
and do you. So I
Be
think that's
ready and do
like
you.
the same thing. Like, yeah, be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had much more success being myself than I have trying to be anybody else.
Well, yeah, when I was playing football at university, my coach had this line, and he used to say this all the time: "Men, be your own man." He said, "Men, be your own man. Don't try and be that player or the flair like that. Like, just be your own man." And that was the first time I heard that concept of having your own niche or having your own thing. Like, you
Yeah,
have your strengths, play to your strengths. In
yeah.
your case, just being yourself, being authentic in who you are instead of trying to be somebody else. And I've stuck with that life lesson forever. Just be your own man, be your own woman.
I think it's tricky for people because it's that thing of like, oh, there's that person that I really admire, but it's like, okay, yes, you can admire that person, but you still have to be yourself, because right, like you can love those players that are like, oh my God, wasn't that amazing?
Yes.
But then you have to still do you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm just laughing because I thought about once I was at a PMA conference and the buffet had opened for lunch. And I said to my friend, I was like, no one's going to the buffet. Should I be first? And he looked at me, so he was like, gotta go do you, babe. I was like, you're right.
Hey.
Buffet. Here I am.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what's it like been traveling? Like, I saw like just on your website, you're like obviously not traveling now, but like from Australia to like you're just all over the world with kids, with life work balance. Like, how has that been before this shutdown?
It's it's a very careful plan. It's changed over the years. Like before, I traveled more when my kids were in school. Now it's sort of flipped. I travel more when my kids in the summer, and now they're older, so I kind of try to create like. So I was supposed to be in Australia, and I was going to go home to Hawaii first, and then go to Australia. So it's all very
Yes.
calculated. So what it is now is so back in the day it's about an 18-month plan. Like someone calls, says, hey, we'd love to hire you, and I say, great, give me a couple of years. And for some people 6 years. The lovely woman in Singapore waited 6 years for me, and so that's what it's like. But it's very careful planning because I have kids, and I think what people don't really talk about, like I watch the people who are like out there, and they're out there a lot. They usually don't have kids. They usually don't have a family.
Right.
And
Yes.
I mean, and you know how the kid thing works. Like I'm halfway through. They're 10. I mean, like I got 8 more years before my daughter's out the door, and I want to be there. So that's, I mean, to me, one of the things I love about sort of watching like Cathy Nash, it's like, she had her kids, she did her family, and then she went on the road. Like for me, it's like this stuff will, like, hopefully I'll still be alive and can enjoy this, but that's other stuff can wait. So I just plan carefully, and I try to take my kids with me now. That's sort of the big thing.
That's sweet. Yeah.
Really fun.
Yeah. My wife, you would say that all the time, that like when you're being a good employee, you're not a good mom. And when you're being a good mom, you're not a good employee. Yeah. Yeah. That's the feeling.
It's true. It's true. So it's and also I want to say that I do it with help. I have someone who helps me with my workshop planning, because it's a lot.
It is. It is. It is.
Yeah.
And Cecile just popped up here with a note. I can attest, Blossom, you are always you. As a surprise guest at Cathy's 2018 on Pilatesology, I'm in live workshop in Pittsburgh, a live class movement for change, playful. Yes. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And one of the things too you said about Cathy Nash, which reminded me, Brooke Seiler said the same thing too. They just wanted to be like moms. They just wanted to just do your thing, but then just you're in the right place at the right time, and you've learned from certain people, and opportunities arise, and you take those opportunities. But it's not like you chased after fame, so to speak. You just like take those opportunities and balance them out as they came.
Yeah, well, I came up of age in a really different time. Like, I happened to be, I wasn't traveling with Cathy because I was trying to climb the Pilates ladder. I was traveling with Cathy because I was her girl. Like, I was her assistant, and if she made a funny noise, like, I would go, oh, I know what you want to do. Hi, Kate, that's my niece.
Oh,
so it's interesting, and as sort of Pilates became a thing and the traveling became a thing, I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yes.
Because not only were other people trying to assist Cathy, but there were also people who were like, there were also people who were trying to also replace me in a certain sense. Like,
really?
Well, sort of, yeah. The PMA was like, hey, so-and-so assists this other person. Maybe he could assist Cathy as well. And bless this friend of mine, he was just like, oh no, that's Blossom's job.
Mm. Yes.
But it was just interesting how things shifted and
yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like the dance world. Like you're trying to get that primo spot, right? Like.
Yeah, but like for any of the people who are out there who know what it's like to the people who know what it's like to assist someone who is getting up there, it's not just like, hey, I'm here to do the thing. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. Like I would pick Cathy up at her house. We would get into the car, and then we'd get to the airport together. Like it wasn't. I wish.
Right.
I was just like, hey, I'm here, ready to go.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we roomed together for goodness sakes.
Yeah. So I'm sure you have like, the whole, Cathy Grant, that whole story of just.
Mm-hmm. That's why you're like, can we talk about Cathy? I was like, how much time you got?
Right.
Which department?
Which part? Well, let's. What do people usually ask you about her? Like, what was it like to teach with her? Like, what is like?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Say that again. What do people usually?
I'm saying, ask. Like, where do people usually start with that?
Anywhere. I mean, like, it's just so rich, Martin. I spent so much time with her, and she really was. I feel like I'm still trying to figure her out. There's still a couple of exercises where I'm like, I don't understand that one yet. I feel like in some weird way I'm still learning from her because I also wonder, like, how did she come up with some of this stuff on her own? Yes. Like, I work now with this physical therapist, Dr. Marshall Hagens. We do this really fun collaboration. And, we had this whole shoulder course. And oftentimes when we're creating these courses, it goes back to a Cathy exercise that she just came up with on her own. I'm like, oh, wait. What about this? And he'll be like, yeah, that's really wonderful because it does this and this and this. And I'm like, wow, that's great. Because when I did it, Cathy didn't say any of that stuff about isolating my shoulder blade. Cathy was just like, she would say things like, don't squeeze the ball. You're a little baby bird. It's like, what the hell does that mean? But, she'd be like, you're a baby bird with a tiny wing. Literally, there's a baby bird exercise. But, so it's just so rich. I mean, lately, I think the conversation's been a lot about Cathy's blackness.
Yes.
Like, it's been interesting watching this Black Lives Matter unfold and just sort of watching all of that happen. Like that's been, I think, the question lately is like, what would Cathy have thought of this time? That's been and I think the real thing I want to say is I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
I sort of am fascinated with the people who are like, I know what Mr. Pilates wanted because I read this. It's like, really? Because I love my Cathy. I spent almost 20 years with her. She was a mystery to me. I mean, I kind of knew, I could guess. Yes. And even now, like, sometimes I thought I knew what she was going to say, and then she'd like throw me off. I'd be like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a wild card.
It was, yeah. And I mean, Maria Earle talked about that as well. Like, you're just trying to get inside the mind of.
That she was, that woman was complicated.
Yes.
Yeah, like I heard someone say that Cathy didn't have, that she had they were talking about her husband and it was Lolita San Miguel, and Lolita said, well, she had a bad marriage. And I thought, well, I don't know if she had a bad marriage. It was the marriage she chose. It's like life is complicated. Partners are complicated. So
yes.
Yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think the conversation around race is interesting because I know you want to be like, from a Black perspective, you are a human. And because there are these inequalities, we assert our Blackness because we're trying to come back to a place of being seen as equal, as powerful, as empowered, all these different things. So there's this push and the swing of the momentum where Black Lives Matter. We're arguing about whether they matter or not, which is the silliest argument.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that should be a given. So with Cathy, just from the stories that I've heard, like whether it's about was it Bendel's, and like lovely story of making that a place of safety and equality and stuff, and those kind of things. It's just like, well, these people matter. These people are important. These people are included. So let's just include them. It's not like I'm on this rah 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 petition. You just do what you can from your place of influence and power and privilege, right? And that's what she had to some degree, and that's what she fought for, and that's what she leveraged. But can you share that story of just Bendel's with the department store and that whole, how that came up?
So just imagine like Midtown Manhattan is like, you know, people dress to go walk down the street, like heels, purse, like people get dressed. In fact, when Cathy talked about working there, I remember seeing a picture of her, and she is in, I'm trying to see if I have that picture right here. I don't think I do. Anyway, there's a picture of her, and she's in like a suit, an exercise suit, 2-piece floral. And I was like, ooh, Cathy. And she goes, well, it was Bendel, so I had, you know, she wanted it to look a certain way. She said, you know, it's a fancy New York City department store. And she would get some really high-end clientele. So back in the 70s, she got lots of professional women who are coming in. And actually, she told, there's an exercise that she calls the monkey with no springs. And she said, you know, I get these women, and they were really aggressive. It was the 70s, and we were going for like liberation and equality. And they would come into the Pilates studio, and they'd be really aggressive on my equipment. And, you know, that's not the kind of energy that Cathy was going for. There are times for it, but not right away. And so she wanted them to come in and cool down and get centered and come into their body. So she created this thing called Monkey with No Springs. But I love that story of like, because that's the kind of stories Cathy would tell about like the social context that was happening, right?
Yes.
And if you look at, I have an old resume of hers, and like the people that used to come in were just like, really? Like, did they Eartha Kitt? Like, Matt Broderick used to go to Cathy Grant. Yeah, at Bendel's. So, you know, his mother, it was really interesting. One of my other favorite stories about Bendel's is that, and it kind of talks to the black part. If Cathy was sitting at a little desk, not a fancy desk, but at the desk, and there was someone working out on the machines, and if someone came in going, oh, I want to try this, they wouldn't go to Cathy. They would talk to the white person on the machine, and and I forgot who told me this story, but it was very uncomfortable because the person working on the machine's like, because you know what, that person did not see Cathy.
Yeah, right.
So you know, that was the sort of control she had, and it would just be like, I'm sorry, I don't, and maybe she would say it in a way of like, I don't have time for you. Or, you know, there are ways to sort of not see a client.
Yes. And
back in those days, she would not see that client. As she got older, and in my day, like she'd pick up the phone and go, I'm sorry, Cathy's not here right now. Hilarious. I know. And I like, you know, Cathy, you're like 80, and they can hear that it's you. But so, I'm sorry, Cathy's not here right now. She's not available. And there was just, but you know what? Bless her, because, and I remember saying like, Cathy, you know, you could charge more money for your sessions. And she'd go, no, because, you know, she really created a place for her to work in the way she wanted to.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that was important. And, you know, that's kind of remarkable for a woman of, you know, for you know, the time, how old she was, the time she grew up, and, you know, like,
yes,
she ran the show.
Good for her.
A good show.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you say like, well, she could have charged more. She could have done this. She could have had a broader scope of it. Do you feel like there's more that could have been done? Not you personally, but like, do you feel like that's a sense from that time?
I think for me, it's something that I get sad about, because, you know, it is too bad that she wasn't celebrated as much as she could have in her, like, yes. I think that's the sadness that I feel about that. Like, she could have, you know, I as her friend, I wanted her to have more money so that these things were easier for her, but she didn't see it that way. You know, there were several of us who wanted her life to be easier as she got older. And, you know, she just wasn't that, she wasn't, there's a guy who helps run Balanced Body, Al Harrison, and he had this great story. He would always say, you know, the thing about Cathy, she would see the bag of money and she would just walk right by it. Mm. It wasn't, even her husband said, you know, Cathy is honest to a fault. And she knew who she was and she knew the way she wanted to work. And that's the way to do it. Even if it made it harder for her. That was just the way she knew how to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear that in the way that you carry yourself too. That is just the root of authenticity right there.
Yeah, I try. I'm really trying. Yeah. And yeah. I'm trying. Let's just put, you know, yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's not always easy. You know, I sometimes get down and dirty because there's some people who definitely piss me off. But I think the greater good is to sort of block out the noise and just do your best. That's kind of my thing.
Yes.
Do your best.
Right.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, that's exactly it. I just love hearing just how she handled her business, so to speak, in that way.
Yeah.
For those of you who are watching, if you have any questions, please feel free to just chime in and just ask your questions. Tarika, I see you there. So lots of people on here that
I'm a Virgo, in case you want to know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kidding. That's never the question. I just like to throw that in.
Just throw that in there, yeah.
Why not?
So tell me about Bridge Pilates.
Oh, my glorified storage unit that I have right now.
Right.
It's lovely. Actually, it's really, yeah, it's funny. I just sort of course, renovated it. Like, it's got, you know, that thing where once you get your house perfect, then you sell it.
Yes.
That's kind of where I feel. So it's this lovely little spot. It's in the corner of the world. Like, it really, I call it a pocket neighborhood. It's not like you go through Vinegar Hill and then go, oh, from here, I'm just going to continue on uptown. You have to like go into Vinegar Hill and just pretty much come out from where you came. I have it on the edge of Brooklyn, but it's this lovely little place that I have kind of what I always wanted, which was a space that I owned, that it didn't own me. Mm-hmm. And I have a lovely group of different teachers that do their thing, and they have a clientele that loves them, and they are all, the interesting thing I think about the way I run my business is that I don't have employees. They really are true independent contractors. So they actually all rent from me. Mm. So that's sort of interesting. It's interesting now though, as now that none of them are working, and so they have no responsibility to the rent. It's all me. So that's an interesting time right now.
Right. Just kind of keep the game face on and keep putting out those online videos.
Exactly. Was there a question from Black?
Yes. Yes, that's Caroline. She's asking, did Cathy talk about having people of color in the studios? And did she wish for more of it? Did she wish for that?
Well, so I also knew, so Cathy also worked at the dance department at NYU. That's how we met. And that was always her thing. And she would always sort of bring that up to the faculty, like, where are the Black students? Where are the Black dancers? And I love, you know, I think that was a part of her, I think, and it was, so she would bring it up there. In her studio, she didn't really bring that up, not to me at least. Mm-hmm. But when we would go and teach a class at the PMA, so, you know, big group, because it's Cathy Grant, and she'd sort of pull me over and go, honey, I don't see my people. Mm. And it was all, you know, that was sort of my education because I was like, oh, wow. And then I would start taking notes, like, okay, there's one. And then she'd go, oh, there's one. And she goes, oh, that's Lolita. Like, you know. Yeah. But, you know, what has been interesting, I think, also in this time, like, you know, like, I'm definitely not Black, but I'm not white either. So I don't necessarily know if you know, Cathy, of course, didn't think of me as Black. I was color, right?
Yes, yeah.
So that's where I find that's where I found interesting, even in the sort of focus on Black. It's sort of like, I get it. I know I'm not Black, that I don't understand that fight, but I'm also not white. And you know, my son had this interesting thing at school. They sort of, to talk about George Floyd, they separated into sort of two groups, Black and white, so to speak. And my son kind of was like, I don't know where to go, Mama. Mm. And I was like, honey, I know, because I feel the same way a little bit. Like, and I said, I think you need to talk to your teacher, because my son is mixed, so he's, you know, white and not white, right? Asian. And so he was like, Mama, I didn't know where to go. I said, well, what did you do? He said, I didn't go to the meeting. And I said, I think that's a problem, sweetie. You need to go. So, you know, I love, and every time now that I see a Black person, especially in a conference, I pull them over and I go, I want you to know that when Cathy would teach a conference, she was looking for you. I'm happy to meet you. But that's, and I do it quietly, but oh, hey, Claire, but that's what I do. I just, you know, it's like, and then that's just all I do. I do it quietly because it's important, and because Cathy would, that's what she would do. And so I pull them aside and go, I see you. I know how hard this is for you, because, you know, their bodies are different. I had a friend of mine, this amazing dancer who dances for the who used to dance for the Mark Morris dance group, the only woman who was ever on the company. Let's think about that for a second. Yes. Lots of Black men, but she was the only Black woman. And she came to Santa Fe and demonstrated for me once. And, you know, she got a bit of a booty, tiny little waist, short waist too. Hey, Udi. And she demonstrated a roll down. And I'm sorry, I'm covering my eyes because it's so embarrassing. This white woman said, excuse me, do you want her to roll and articulate down? And I said, yes. And she said, I don't think she's doing that. And I was sort of like, oh, girl. Like in my head, I was like, and my friend Michelle gave me a look and I was like, I got it.
Yes.
And I had to have this talk about how, like, what we see is usually white people, thin, little white people doing this work. Like, you have to broaden the scope.
Yes.
And I had to break her body down. I said, okay, Michelle's got a bit of a booty, and look, she's got a very narrow waist and a short waist too. So she is, on the inside, she's curling like crazy. What I wish I said to that woman is, I wish I said to her, you can't even see what she's doing. Meaning, meaning putting it on her as opposed to my friend, right? Like, that's the big thing. Like, and actually, that's why I think why I love teaching a community mat class. That's where I teach at the Mark Morris Dance Center. And because I get all kinds of people, and you don't just look at you can't just look at what you think you see. You have to kind of go, okay, what's happening, like that next layer under that, right? Like, my friend was tucking, and hello, she's a professional dancer. She was freaking dancing with like Baryshnikov a few months earlier, right? Like, she was like, if I told her to curl, she was curling. Right.
Yeah, she's body aware. Do we? I say we got to put on our X-ray vision sometimes when we're teaching.
Yes, I mean, I've fallen victim to that where I go, oh wait, they're not doing it right, and then I have to look and go, oh okay, no, they are doing it. Got it. It looks different on that kind of body. You just gotta Anyway, I think I digressed really far on that one.
No, that's a great digression. I mean, as Pilates instructors, as coaches, we need to always be sharpening our cues, sharpening our vision, sharpening our tactile cues, all those different things, right?
Right. Think about how we're seeing the person, what are we really looking for, right?
What are we really looking for?
Right. Yes. So Cathy didn't really talk about wanting more Black people in her studio, but if the person was Black, they would have a special thing, you know, like they were saying things that I didn't understand. Like, you know, Cathy definitely taught me some terms. I think my favorite ones was Cathy, you know, my rhythm is very different from Cathy's. Cathy is very jazzy, syncopated rhythm, fast, right? Yes. I'm a little more Hawaii reggae.
Yes.
And I remember once, like, you know, Cathy had this exercise that kind of goes, flex, point, change, flex, point, change. You can hear the rhythm in that, right? Mm-hmm. And I would always struggle with it. And she would just laugh at me because, you know, it was like, oh, there, you know, you poor thing, you don't have the rhythm. Yes. You know, like classic. And she said to me once, she goes, oh, honey, I'm going to make you colored yet. And I was like, and every time I teach, I'm like, come on, I can do it. It's you first. I'm just like, the woman just had rhythm, and that fast rhythm, not really me.
Yeah, Caroline. And one of the biggest problems, education needs to address the difference in body structures. Yes, exactly. Even on core conversations, I try and bring that up as much as possible. What do we see? How do we, I mean, the phrase, like, I'm going to throw the standard phrase out to you. What does this phrase mean? Coach or teach to the body in front of you.
I feel like people say that so much, but they're not really doing it. I'm just going to say it. Like, I feel like we say that, but are we really doing that. Because yeah, like, okay, for instance, on the 1-2 chair, when people do the step up,
Yes.
My thing is, I sort of go, okay, why are you doing the people? So short, tall, most people take that top foot and they bring it all the way to the back edge of the chair. And like, chairs have very different steps.
Dimensions. Yes.
Correct. And I've said to someone, why do you have your foot there? And they go, because I was told toes to the back end. I said, yes, but you are 5 feet tall. And that is a big old balanced body chair. You should adjust that position a little bit. That's the way I was taught with Cathy. She would say position is, I can't remember the number. She'd say position is 30% of doing the exercise. You need to know your position and you need to know how to figure it out on that piece of equipment. But I feel like here's the problem, is that in training programs, you come up with a standard and then this is what you do.
Yes.
And that's what a training program is. I'm not knocking it. I get it. That's why I don't want to do it. Thank you to the people who do it. No, seriously. But
yeah.
After a while, you need to look at that person's body and go, okay, that's not working for you. I still trip. It still is a tripwire for me even now. Like, I had someone doing something, it just wasn't working. And I just, you just have to change up the lever sometimes to make the exercise effective or work.
Yes, right. When you talk levers, that's exactly it. When, in the personal training world, and not to knock the Pilates world at all, but when I'm, as a personal trainer coming from that sport conditioning, when I have those conversations with people who work with people teaching them deadlifts and squats, it's all about levers and triangles and angles.
Yeah.
And then that gets checked in the door. Pardon?
They exist in our Pilates world too. We just aren't taught to look at them as much as we should.
Right, exactly. And that's what I was getting at. Like, even teaching my wife this morning, we're working on.
Wait, you teach wife?
Yes.
First, I have high five to that one.
It hasn't always been pretty.
The fact that you still do it. My husband had one session with me, and he was like, he was like, wait a second. If you're helping me, why are you making it harder? That was, and then I think I was like, I think we shouldn't do this anymore. He was like,
I've been there. Yeah. There's been like tears and people walking by, and she's in tears because I'm trying. But you
guys do it. You're
back
still
to the
very
point.
amazing.
Yes.
Anyway,
But
so
I was saying, we were talking about this morning, and she's doing an exercise, and she was saying, like, can I do it like this? I was like, well, no, I've been taught it this way, and this is the reason why we do it this way. Take a little break. We're going to do that one more time, and you do it your way. Let me see what happens. And then we find out, like, dimensions and, like, levers and all those different things. It actually can't be done that way because the straps don't engage at the right point to be able to get the proper, you know what I'm saying? So it's the machine. So if the straps were shorter, it might have worked that way, but because, you know what I mean? So you understand where things engage and all those different things. So getting back to the point about the way that we're taught and then looking at the body in front of us and understanding the positioning, all of those factors come into play to get people to move the way that their bodies want to move.
Yes, and spring tension even, like, just because you were trained with it goes, the spring is here, mess with it. I had this one woman, she was like, is this she's like, teaser, it doesn't do anything for me on the chair. I was like, really? And then she accidentally did it with a heavier spring. She goes, oh, I felt that. I was like, oh, great. You gotta mess with it. So yeah, you're right, springs. Yes,
it is. But we're like, I feel like sometimes in our learning, we're this is supposed to be on 3 springs. This has to be on 2 springs, right? Like,
Cathy I would sort of set up for a exercise and I go, Cathy, how many springs? She'd go, I don't know, push it, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, right.
But it's very freeing. It's a little like shit. Like I almost look like an idiot sometimes. Like, wait, hold on a second. Like I have to kind of push it and go, or practice one and be like, oh yeah, that's right.
That's practice. Yes.
Like, oh, okay, yeah. But it is a little freeing. And then you can also mess with it and be like, oh, I think I want it heavier. It's very freeing to go there. But yes, you gotta play with it.
Right, exactly. Well, that's a full circle to, like, Erica was on Friday, and everything comes back to your why. Like, well, why are we doing this exercise? If we can establish why we're doing this exercise, then the springs don't matter. This doesn't matter. Like, what are we trying to have? Or back in the personal training world, they'd say, like, train the movement, not the muscle.
Right.
So what is the movement that we're trying to create here?
Right. What's the overall goal? Yes, yeah, that's the important thing. Like, people sometimes will say, because I'll show something and they'll be taught something entirely different, and they'll go, oh, am I allowed to do X? And I go, well, maybe, depends on what you're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends on what you're working on, you know. So maybe, you know, and I rarely say, no, don't do this way. I go, well, I'm doing this way because I'm trying to get X.
Yes.
I possibly see you wanting to do that if they can't do, you know, if other things can't happen, then you know, because there are always reasons to do everything. Mm-hmm. You just have to know if that reason, if you're picking the right reason for the right time.
Right, exactly. And that is the beauty of teaching and learning as we are as teachers, because we can learn from our students. So if I'm explaining what the movement, what the objective, what the goal is, and they can get there a way that we've never seen before that's effective, next time we can go, okay, so we can do it this way, or we can do it this way. We could present it like we thought of it ourselves, right?
Yeah, left, right.
Yes.
It's true, true.
Here's a question. How did Cathy approach the book from Joseph Pilates?
Oh, Return to Life, I think, as I'm assuming, or is it to teach Matt the way? So, you know, what was fun about my experience with Cathy is I met and started working with Cathy before before Pilates became popular. So I got to watch Cathy change her teaching with the time. So back in the day, Cathy taught like some crazy stuff. She taught this thing called the tucks. We did you know, it was very creative and really fun, yes. A little more, I don't want to say dancey, but it had a little more choreography that was influenced from her dance background.
Yes.
But as Pilates became more popular, she was like, I don't want someone to come to NYU, do Pilates with me, and then go someplace else and show them stuff that is stuff actually that I made up and not Pilates. I need them to be able to go someplace else and say, and know the hundreds, the roll. So back when I first started with Cathy, she would definitely do the mat work and most of the time in the order, because I see that's the question. And yes. But by the time my tenure as her NYU assistant ended, yes. We started, the end goal of the year was to do hundreds to push up in 45 minutes. All of it.
Yes.
Everything everything. So,
right.
And it was fun, but that was the goal. And so it's like, yeah, in some ways we gained things because we sort of did all the Pilates stuff, but then kind of the fun other stuff went to the wayside.
Yes. So there was an evolving curriculum, but the creativity wasn't dropping off, so.
Oh no, I think then she got more creative with imagery and stuff like that. Like that's yes. Where, yeah, you know, that was just, Cathy's imagery was wonderful.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
And then what did she do when men walked in? Not dancer men, like when just guy walked in, super simple.
She would have loved you. She loved men. She loved men. Yeah, no, she loved men. And in fact, back when I used to assist her at the PMA, sometimes it would be like, you know, hours and hours and hours and hours, and I'd have to pee. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't quite leave her because I mean, she didn't need me, but then there was that moment where she'd kind of go, and Blossom, where are we going? And I needed to be there. Right. So I realized that this is my trick. Right. I would find a man.
Yes.
And I'd sort of go, excuse me, could you just and I'd put her hand on this man's arm, and she'd kind of go, you know, you could have seen her at a restaurant with a cute Italian waiter. And yes. It wasn't, I mean, the woman knew how to flirt in the best way. I'm like, no, this is like, got it. Like, she was funny. And I'd be like, excuse me, can you just walk her toward ballroom 2? And that way I could like take a break.
Yes.
But she was really, and especially toward the end, she was really into men, because her focus became this thought that Pilates was made by a man for men. And so she really started looking at the Pilates work in that lens. Like,
yes.
And like, I remember my now husband, then boyfriend at the time, I said, you know, he wants to come into the studio and he wanted to wear his shoes. She was like, let him. I was like, what? And she goes, you have to let them be comfortable. And, you know, so she would, and she yes. really, and she didn't want to, she sometimes thought that Pilates got a little too femme. She really, and that she would always say, you have to remember it was made by a man for men. Women just happened to do it and continue it, but it was made for men.
Yes.
Right. But then she wouldn't like it when when for instance, like Julian Littaford taught a workshop once, and he had us do like 60 push-ups, and she was pissed. She was like, "It's a room full of women. You know we can't do a lot of push-ups.
Yes.
Why would you do that to us?" So then later, when he came to her workshop, let's just say she returned the favor.
Yikes.
Yeah. It was sort of funny, but not funny. But she loved men, and she really loved, and she had this, she taught them in sort of she taught them in a different way, as you kind of, that was what was great about her. She really, when you came in as a client, she literally back in the day would interview you.
Okay, yes.
Oh, you never heard this? And it wasn't, my first session was maybe 2 hours long, an hour, which was maybe an hour and a half, which was just, and I think it went like this, your name, your age, your phone number, and tell me about every injury you've ever had. What? Mm-hmm. And I was like, all of them? She's like, yes, all of them. And so actually, I stole those cards. I have my cards.
Yes.
It's a record of my first 20 years probably up in New York. Like all of the names I used to have, all my phone numbers and addresses. She has those notes of like chronic, and actually it was great. Like I read chronic back pain. I was like, oh yeah, that used to be me. Yeah. Chronic pain. I remember that. Mm. But yeah, so and so she really like saw each person, like the fact that I was from Hawaii was something. You know, for instance, once she had a client and the person fell. And she was like, I should have known that person wasn't going to catch themselves off the ball. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, because she was like, they grew up in the city. They don't really play. Like they don't run around in the yard and play. Mm. So as she fell off the ball, she didn't know to catch herself. And she didn't blame the lady who fell off the ball. She blamed herself. Psyche or who you were as a person was always a part of how she was teaching.
Yes.
Yeah. We should, Martin, we should.
That's his next project for you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, we got all kinds of projects, Martin and I.
Yeah. This has been so amazing, Blossom. I know you have to get going because you have a 11 o'clock you got to jump into.
But I got 5 more minutes.
Okay, amazing. What are your closing thoughts for our people who've been just listening to your Cathy Grant stories and for your own studio and philosophy?
I think just in my philosophy, I think I've already said it, like do your best, have some fun. That's the other thing is that, like that's what I remember. Like in Cathy's studio, you worked your ass off. But let me tell you, we had fun. We would laugh. And it was really fun. And as I like to joke, laughing is breathing. Like yes. I mean, I think especially now, like in the current pandemic, it's like gotta have fun, guys, and like try to find some joy. Like especially now, you gotta enjoy yourself in some way. And I hope that everyone's out there teaching and having fun and hopefully finding some sort of joy, because it's a little rough out there. And I think the other thing is, I think the big lesson recently for me is to really find your people and in fact, I even have like a group of women that are all small studio owners, and we get together and just chat or even like email each other, because I think, finding your people, because you spoke about how alone we can feel in this.
Yes.
But we're really not. But go find your people and go make those groups, make it happen. And I think that has really helped me through this crazy time. And I hope that if you're interested in some Cathy Grant stuff, I have I'm going to just plug it. I have this interesting blog called CathyGrantPilates.com.
Okay.
Really lovely note from Cathy's niece there, who Cathy was her hero, obviously, and there's some great pictures, and I think I even have posted Cathy's resume if you ever want to check out her incredible stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sorry. And the last thing about that blog is that what I do is I interview people who studied with Cathy, and most of them have submitted a videotape or something of an exercise that was taught to them by Cathy, and some of them are crazy. Like, how about this prone footwork on the reformer?
Okay.
I'm just going to use that as a little teaser. You can go look at it, people. What was her name? Oh, I can't remember her name. I'll remember it later, of course, after this is over.
Yeah. Amazing. That is awesome. Check out Blossom's classes, Bridge Pilates, virtual classes. Just follow. You are the next generation of heroes in our Pilates world.
Crazy. How did that happen? I was the little youngster back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, not anymore. That's okay. I've enjoyed growing up, let me tell you.
So good.
Yeah.
Yes.
But thank you for having me, Martin. I really had fun just talking about my girl.
Yeah, I loved having you. We'll definitely do this again, and hopefully it won't take 3 months to make it happen, but
I know. See, I'm sorry. Good things come to those who wait.
no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, I mean,
So good.
yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Core Conversations. This organic platform has been made possible by amazing people like yourself. So if you're a Pilates instructor or a movement specialist of some kind and you want to be a guest, please message me. If you're in some other field and the messages just resonate with you, message me. I'd love to have you on. All of our messages connect, and for some reason they all help us in the battle. We're all in this game together, so I'd love to hear from you. Let your words be light to someone else. Check out our website, personalvictory.ca. Click the Core Conversations page to see who our upcoming guests are, and I will see you next time on Core Conversations.